Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Jones Life Stories, where real lives, raw truths, and unshakable courage collide to inspire us all. Tonight, we're diving into a story that will grip your heart, spark your soul, and remind you that even in the darkest moments, one voice, one choice, can change everything. This is the story of a mother's fierce love, a child's quiet bravery, and a family that stood tall against injustice. Before we begin, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Your thoughts fuel our mission to share stories that matter. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to join our journey of profound lessons and heartfelt empathy. Let's dive in. It was just past 9 p.m. on a rainy Monday night along Highway 83 in Riverhill, a small town where the quiet could feel heavier than peace, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to shatter. Danielle Brooks, a 34-year-old black ER nurse, pulled her silver Honda Accord into Pump 6 at a flickering gas station, the kind of place that looked more forgotten than functional. Light rain streaked the blacktop, leaving a glossy sheen under the tall lamps that buzzed faintly, casting a sickly yellow glow. Danielle stepped out, her navy scrubs still damp from a spilled 4-bag during her 12-hour shift at Riverhill General. Her badge, Danielle Brooks, RN, swayed slightly as she moved, her face beautiful but etched with exhaustion, dark circles framing her eyes, her hair pulled into a messy bun. She was a single mother who'd clawed her way through nursing school while raising her son, Jalen, a 10-year-old with a quick smile and asthma that turned cold nights into battles. Her steps were steady, practiced. This was just Monday, another long day in a life built on resilience. In the back seat, Jalen sat curled up, knees tucked under a gray hoodie, his tablet glowing with spelling exercises. A disposable mask hung loosely over his face, a habit from years of managing his asthma, his inhaler resting on the seat beside him like a lifeline. Close, necessary, ready. Danielle tapped the window, her voice soft but firm. "I'm grabbing a water, baby. 2 minutes. You good?" Jalen glanced up, eyes half hidden under his hood, and flashed a thumbs up. "Doing spelling." "I'm good, Mom." "Lock the door," she said, her faint smile masking the weight of a day spent saving lives while carrying her own burdens. She'd been on her feet since 7 a.m., stitching wounds, calming panicked patients, and dodging the subtle slights from colleagues who still whispered she'd only made it through school because of quotas. Danielle had learned to let those words slide off her, but they left scars, invisible but deep. Across the lot, a police cruiser idled near the air machine, its engine a low hum. Inside, 2 white officers, Brent Holloway, mid-40s, with a sunburned neck and a jaw that looked carved from years of unchallenged authority, and Marcus Doyle, younger, leaner, with a buzz cut and a habit of cracking his knuckles like he was itching for a fight, watched her every move. "Look at that," Doyle muttered, sipping from a paper coffee cup, late model Accord, custom rims, scrubs. "You think that's hers?" Holloway gave a short, dry laugh. "Please. No way. That's somebody else's whip. Let's find out." They stepped out, slow, deliberate, their boots clicking on the wet pavement like a countdown. Danielle noticed them immediately, her posture stiffening, one hand still on the pump handle. She dealt with cops before, routine traffic stops, questions at the hospital about patients, but this felt different, heavier. "Evening," she said, her voice steady but guarded, the smile not reaching her eyes. "You own this car, ma'am?" Holloway asked, his gaze sliding over her badge, her hands, her sneakers, everything but her face, like she was a puzzle to dissect. "Yes, sir. Bought it last month. Plates are up to date," she replied, reaching into her scrub pocket for her license and registration, her movements careful, polite, but never submissive. She'd learned that balance young, growing up in a neighborhood where cops could be as much a threat as a shield. Doyle circled the car, pretending to inspect the plates. "We got a report on a car matching this description." "Just doing our job." Danielle handed over her documents. "Of course. Here's everything you need." Holloway didn't even glance at the papers, letting them dangle in his hand like they were irrelevant. "You work at Riverhill General?" "Yes. I'm a nurse. Night shift." "Funny," he said, tilting his head, his tone dripping with something sour. You don't really look like someone who drives a car like this. Danielle blinked. Once. Twice. Her lips pressing into a thin line. She'd heard it before. The assumption she couldn't afford the car, that she didn't belong in it, that her life didn't add up to their expectations. Inside the car, Jalen had stopped typing, his small hands frozen on his tablet. His mom's shoulders were tense, her words slower, her usual warmth replaced by something rigid. Something was wrong. He reached into his backpack, pulling out his phone, the screen glowing faintly under his hoodie. He typed a message fast. Mom's in trouble. 2 cops. Gas station HY83. Come now. He sent it to one contact, Uncle T, his mom's older brother, the man who always showed up when things got tough. Then Jalen swiped to voice memos, hit record, and slid the phone under his jacket, tucking it near his chest, the red light blinking silently. Danielle didn't see. Her focus locked on Holloway, who stepped closer, close enough for her to smell stale coffee on his breath. You got anything in that car we need to know about? My son, she said, her voice calm but edged with steel. That's who's in the car. 10 years old, doing homework. Doyle leaned toward the passenger window, cupping his hand to peer inside. 10, huh? He looks older. Jalen froze, his breath shallow, but the phone kept recording, capturing every word, every pause. Danielle nodded. Yes, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't scare him. Then her eyes caught a paper sign taped to the gas station door, security cameras temporarily out of order. Under maintenance. Her stomach dropped, a cold wave washing over her. No backup, no witnesses. And the officers shifted, their stances loosening, like they knew it too. Holloway grinned, his eyes glinting under the lamplight. Well, well, he said softly, almost to himself. Guess it's just us here tonight. The air tightened, coiled like a spring. Holloway's grin faded, replaced by something colder, more settled, like a man who'd already decided how the night would end. Doyle stood behind him, arms crossed, jaw tight, his knuckles cracking again. Danielle's chest tightened. Not fear, not yet, but calculation. She'd seen men like them in the ER, their hands leaving bruises on patients who looked like her, their reports claiming resistance when there was none. And now, the cameras weren't watching. I'd like my ID back now, she said clearly, hands still on the pump, fighting to keep her voice steady. Holloway stared, then tossed her documents toward her chest. They fluttered to the wet pavement, landing in a puddle. You getting smart with me, nurse lady? That how you talk to law enforcement where you come from? I'm talking to you like a citizen, she said, bending to pick up the papers, her knees trembling but her face composed. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Doyle stepped closer to the car, his shadow falling over the window. Maybe she's hiding something. You see how she keeps looking back. I'm looking at my son, Danielle said, standing tall again. He's 10. He's scared. You're scaring him. Holloway's eyes narrowed. 10 years old, sitting in a car like that this time of night. What kind of mom brings a kid out here this late? You sure he's even yours? The words hit like a slap, but Danielle didn't flinch. Her jaw clenched, her voice low. Don't talk about my son. Inside, Jalen's breathing quickened, shallow and sharp, his small hands gripping his inhaler but not using it, trying to stay calm. The air felt thin, like something had drained it from the car. The officers' voices were louder now, sharper, and his phone kept recording, the red light steady under his hoodie. You want to play games? Doyle said, circling to the driver's side. Go ahead, call someone. Hell, call the goddamn president. Danielle pulled her phone from her scrub pocket, thumbing for her brother's number. Terrence, Uncle T, the one person she trusted to fix this. Her hand shook, not from weakness but from fury, a mother's rage burning through her veins. Before she could hit dial, Holloway lunged, slapping the phone to the ground. It skittered across the concrete, landing near the rear tire with a sickening crack. That's my personal property, Danielle shouted, stepping forward instinctively. And then it happened. Holloway's hand came down hard across her shoulder, shoving her back against the car, the metal cold against her spine. Doyle grabbed her wrist, twisting it up, his grip bruising. Stop resisting, he barked, ignoring her gasp of pain, half shock, half rage. Let me go. My son is watching. Danielle cried, her voice breaking for the first time. That little shit! Doyle spat, jerking his head toward Jalen. He's faking. Ain't sick. Just trying to get us off your ass. Jalen's vision blurred, his chest burning as his asthma flared, the cold air and fear tightening his lungs. He lifted the inhaler, hands trembling too much to press it. "Mom," he wheezed, barely audible, his small body shaking. "Mom, I can't. He's having an asthma attack." Danielle screamed, her voice raw with panic. "He needs his inhaler." "Shut the hell up," Holloway shouted, yanking open the rear door. He leaned in, towering over Jalen, and slapped the inhaler from his hands. It clattered to the floor. "Ain't no kid faking an episode just 'cause his mama's in cuffs." Jalen cried out, a dry, broken sound, doubling over, wheezing, his small hands clutching at his chest. Danielle broke free from Doyle's grip for a split second, lunging to the back seat, grabbing the inhaler off the floor. "Baby, press down, press it now," she urged, her voice trembling but fierce. Doyle wrenched her backward, slamming her against the car again. "That's it. That's resisting. You just earned yourself a real charge. You're hurting her," Jalen screamed, his voice raw between gasps, tears streaming down his face as he pressed the inhaler to his mouth, finally getting a puff. Holloway slammed the car door, his face twisted with contempt. "Oh, now the little one's got a mouth too. You think you're above the law tonight? Think we won't throw your ass down right here?" Danielle was shaking now, not from fear but from rage, from the burning unfairness of it all, from the helplessness of watching her son gasp for air while men with badges mocked him. She knelt beside Jalen, cradling his shaking body, whispering, "Breathe, baby, just breathe." Then the air snapped. Tires screeched, rubber tearing at the wet asphalt like claws. A black SUV skidded to a hard stop just yards away, its headlights burning through the drizzle, cutting a harsh line across the scene, illuminating the officers like a spotlight they hadn't asked for. Holloway reached for his belt. Doyle's hand twitched near his taser, but they froze as the door opened. A tall black man in a dark, tailored suit stepped out, his presence commanding, unhurried, like a storm gathering strength. He didn't shout, didn't rush, but his walk made the air heavier, made the officers stand straighter whether they wanted to or not. He had broad shoulders, a clean shave, a square jaw that carried the weight of courtrooms and battles won. He lifted a leather badge case, the gold emblem catching the light like a blade. "Mayor Terrence Brooks," he said, his voice low but clear, echoing off the gas pumps. "Remove your hands from my sister right now." The silence was immediate, cold, sudden, like the world had stopped breathing. Holloway lowered his hands slowly. Doyle stepped back, uncertain. "She was resisting," Holloway began, his voice faltering. "No." Terrence cut him off, his eyes like steel clamps. "What she was doing was surviving. What you were doing was violating damn near every line in the book." Doyle tried to speak. "We had reason to believe." "You had no reason," Terrence said, his voice unshaken. "No warrant, no cause. And now you've laid hands on an unarmed woman in front of her child, in a neighborhood where you thought nobody would notice. But somebody did." He gestured toward the street, and like summoned shadows, 2 marked patrol units from Riverhill's Central Precinct rolled in, sirens silenced, lights spinning silently. Doors opened fast, uniformed officers stepping out with clipped urgency. One, a sergeant, nodded to Terrence. "We got the call. Orders from dispatch. Standing by for your directive. Officers Holloway and Doyle," Terrence said calmly, "are to be relieved of their weapons and placed under administrative custody right here, right now." Holloway's face flushed red. "What?" he barked, spinning toward the other cops. "You can't be serious. You're taking his word for it. He's family. And a federal official," the sergeant replied, his tone flat. "You're not above protocol." Holloway hesitated, then unstrapped his belt with a snarl, slamming it on the hood of his cruiser. "This is bullshit," he spat. "Bitch should have stayed home if she didn't want to be questioned." Terrence didn't blink. "You just sealed your suspension, Officer Holloway. Keep talking. You'll walk into a criminal charge." As the officers were disarmed, paramedics emerged from an ambulance pulling into the lot, a woman with short gray hair and quick eyes rushing to Danielle and Jalen. "Vitals are unstable," she said, checking Jalen's pulse. Boy's breathing is tight, Mom's blood pressure spiking. "We need to go," Danielle whispered hoarsely, tears drying on her cheeks as she held Jalen's hand. "Please." Terrence stepped closer, touching her shoulder gently, his voice thick with emotion. "You're going. I'm riding with you. You're safe now." He helped her to her feet as the medics secured Jalen on a stretcher, his small hand gripping his mother's fingers, his breathing steadier but his face pale, eyes wide. Terrence brushed Jalen's forehead. "You did good, buddy. You saved your mom tonight." Danielle turned to him as they loaded into the ambulance. "How did you know?" "Jalen texted me," Terrence said, his voice soft but proud. "And he recorded everything. You thought the cameras were off, but the microphones weren't." As the ambulance doors closed, Danielle looked out the back window, past the gathering crowd, past the gas station where her ordinary night had become a battlefield. Holloway stood cuffed, shouting at no one. Doyle sat on the curb, head in his hands. Terrence stood tall, arms crossed, jaw locked. The streets of Riverhill weren't quiet anymore, not tonight. Days later, in a sterile conference room at City Hall, Danielle sat stiffly, her shoulder wrapped in gauze, her navy sweatshirt loose over the bandage. Jalen was curled beside her, a blanket over his lap, clutching a hospital cup of orange juice. He hadn't spoken much since the ambulance ride, but his eyes were alert, watching everyone with a weary gaze, like he'd aged years and minutes. He'd seen his mother brutalized, felt a stranger's hand across his cheek, heard words no child should hear, yet he'd pressed record. Across the room, Terrence stood, gripping a tablet, the paused video feed glowing. He was the mayor, yes, but here he was just a brother, an uncle, a man shaking with quiet fury. The room was still, the only sounds the faint crackle of speakers and a legal aid's pen clicking. The video played, static, then color, gas station lights, Danielle's calm voice, the thud of her phone hitting the pavement, her body slammed against the car, the slap, Jalen's scream, his wheezing lungs, Doyle's mockery, Holloway's laugh. Terrence pressed pause, the room frozen. Danielle leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Tell me you're not letting this slide." "Not a chance," Terrence said, eyes locked on the tablet. "We go public." The press conference was held in a plain media room, beige walls, flickering exit sign, wires trailing like veins. Reporters muttered, adjusting cameras, unaware of the bombshell coming. Terrence stepped forward, no notes, just truth. Last night, 2 officers abused their power. They assaulted a nurse, a mother, in front of her child. They struck him, mocked him, believing no one would see. But they were wrong. The screen flickered, showing Danielle's terrified face, Jalen reaching for his inhaler, Doyle's raised hand. The room exploded with questions. Is it true she's your sister? Was the boy hospitalized? What charges? Terrence raised a hand. This isn't about family. It's about justice. This city doesn't protect abusers in uniform. By mid-afternoon, the video was viral, headlines screaming, "Nurse assaulted by police, child struck." Hashtags flooded. Hashtag protect black children. Hashtag justice for Danielle. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse, not with megaphones, but strollers, scrubs, firemen's jackets, ordinary people, Danielle's neighbors, her patients. At the precinct, Holloway and Doyle sat cuffed to a steel bench, faces flushed with fury. "They're throwing us under the bus over some loudmouth and her fake asthma kid," Doyle spat. A young officer winced but said nothing. The city roared, demanding accountability. In the courtroom, packed with nurses, janitors, teachers, and mothers, the silence was heavy, not with slogans but with truth. Danielle sat, arm in a sling, Jalen beside her in a button-up shirt, his jaw clenched like a man's. Terrence entered, no suit, just a pullover, here is family. The video played again, Doyle's shove, Holloway's laugh, Jalen's cry. The defense claimed Danielle was hostile, Jalen manipulative, but a gas station tech testified the camera, fixed that morning, synced with Jalen's audio. Nothing could be denied. Danielle took the stand, her voice steady. "I wasn't scared for myself. I was scared they wouldn't let me get to my son's inhaler." Jalen's recording played, Holloway's slurs, Doyle's taunts. The jury returned, guilty on all counts, excessive force, assault, child endangerment, false reporting. The judge's voice was firm. You are unfit to wear the badge. Stripped of credentials, remanded to custody. The room didn't cheer, but the tension cracked like a storm lifting. Outside, the crowd stood shoulder to shoulder, not chanting, just witnessing. A woman touched Danielle's hand. Thank you for not staying silent. Danielle looked at Jalen. He's the one who didn't stay silent. Terrence handed Jalen a burned badge and glass. I left the force 15 years ago when I saw it didn't protect everyone. Maybe one day it will, because of people like you. Jalen held it tight, unsure but proud. The city passed the Jalen Carter Act. Mandatory body cams, jail for tampering. Danielle joined the oversight board, not by choice but by necessity, because change comes when it must. Jalen returned to school, quieter, taller, shrugging off questions with, it was loud. Asked if he'd be a cop, he said. No, a doctor. But I'll remember. At the ER, a patient whispered to Danielle, You made it easier for the next nurse like you. She nodded. Sometimes, a crack lets in light. Join us at the Jones Life Stories to share stories that change hearts and move mountains. Hit like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy. Together, we'll keep the light growing.